Hi, it's Lauren. Welcome back to my craft room. I am finally back from vacation and getting caught up on some projects, especially with this brand new Pretty Pink Posh release for January 2023. There are so many amazing products in this new release, and I'm going to start with showing off the brand new confetti mixes. These are different clay confettis. We have strawberry shortcake, XOXO, and Valentine's Day clay confetti mixes. They are so beautiful and so colorful for this upcoming holiday, or really any other love type of event or sweets, with those cute little strawberry shortcake clay confettis. Let's now jump into the stamp sets and coordinating dies. We have the beautiful potted roses stamp set and a corresponding die that also cuts out that sending sentiment. We also have Sweet Cherries stamp set that cuts out all of the adorable little cherries and flowers with its corresponding die set. We have the XOXO stamp set, which has a matching die set as well and lots of cute little sweets. We have the adorable heart critters and its coordinating dies. I love how cute they are. Lots of new standalone dies like the Wonky Stitch Square dies, the Sweet Note dies, and the Valentine Mug Edition dies that has some really great layering die cuts in there. And of course, the magical layering stencils like the layered cherry stencils, the layered Valentine heart stencils, layered XOXO stencils, and the layered chocolate stencils. So many great ideas you can use with all of these new products. But what I am most excited about are the new hot foil plates. So we have the large hugs, and it also has a die set that will cut out the hugs as well as around the thinner die cut and the hot foil. And then there's also love, which is the exact same product, just the word love instead of hugs. So let's get started on our card. I dug through my Distress Oxides and compared it to the XOXO Clay Confetti Mix and picked 4 colors that I thought looked really well and matched really well with those different clay confetti pieces. I will have them linked down below, but the colors are Tumbled Glass, Evergreen Bow, Candied Apple, and Spun Sugar. And I'm going to create a slimline card, and I'm only using 2 of the 3 stencils from this XOXO stencil set. I'm using the X's and the O's. So I'm going to do the blue-green colors on the X's. So I'm starting with Evergreen Bow, and I'm only going to go about halfway down with the color on this stencil, and then go the other way up with Tumbled Glass, making sure to blend the 2 colors together in the middle. Now I'm using a slimline card, and what's great about these layered stencils that you can easily take these 6x6 stencils and expand it over to fit your slimline card because they line up so well with each other. I'm using some mint tape and my magnetic glass mat to help me keep my paper and stencil in place. And then just like I did on the left side, I'm going to repeat that on the right, filling in the rest of the X's. Now let's bring over the O's. I'm lining them up so that way the O's fit in between the X's that I just stenciled on. And now I'm going to use the colors Candied Apple and Spun Sugar to add in that nice little sweet side of the O's, blending in the red and the pink together. Once all of my stenciling is done, I absolutely love peeling it up to see the reveal. We have this really fun, sweet XOXO background, and I did trim down this piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock to 9x4, so I'm going to grab my paper trimmer and I'm going to trim this to fit a slimline base of 3.5 by 8.5. So when I glue this down to a slimline card base later, it will fit perfectly on the front panel of that card base. So now that that is trimmed, I'm going to turn it into a shaker. So I've opened up my dies. This is the corresponding die or the coordinating die to the XOXO stamp set, and the heart is from the Valentine mug edition dies, and I'm going to use these to create a shaker window. So I have them placed how I want on my background, and I'm just going to run it through my die cut machine. I did run it through twice just to make sure that all of those dies went all the way through my background, and then I'm going to pop out my die cut pieces. So I'm going to be using, I guess, what you would consider the negative space of these dies for the shaker window, but I am going to save those XOXOs and the heart for a future card. So I just tuck them in with my die cuts in my little sleeve where I keep my dies. So I want my background of my shaker to be this pretty pink paper. I just picked something that I had in my scraps in my stash, but feel free to use a pink that matches what you're stenciling. So I thought it looked really nice with the spun sugar, especially when it blended in with the candied apple. I just used some large scissors to trim down how much I needed behind my shaker. I didn't really care about it being exact because it's going to be hidden, and I'm lining up my stamp through the die cut, pardon my messy bun here, to stamp my XOXO onto the background, that pink paper that will be on the back side of my shaker. So using my magnets and my MISTI, I made sure to keep that paper in place while I removed my XO background, and I'm going to do some embossing. So I applied some anti-static powder to that pink paper, and then using Versamark to stamp down that XO stamp set or stamp itself. And I think I stamped it 3 times. I really wanted to make sure, since it's a nice new stamp, that it got full coverage onto this white or this pink cardstock. And then I used white embossing powder and my heat gun, and it created a really pretty white sentiment, I guess you could say, onto or image onto that pink paper. I grabbed my dome foamed ink blender that still had some candied apple ink on it. I didn't even need to open up my ink pad, and I'm creating an ombre look going up the bottom of that cardstock, and then I will grab a piece of um, I was going to say tissue paper, but it's not tissue paper, a paper towel. And I'm just wiping off the ink. So I created, an ink distress or an emboss resist look onto that background. And when I lay over my stenciled background, that's going to be my shaker window, you can see that sentiment shining through my shaker windows. So now I need a piece of acetate. This time I'm going to use my paper trimmer because it's hard to see the acetate to make sure I'm cutting a decently straight line. And this will be the shaker window. So I will adhere this behind my open windows on that XO stenciled background. I'm going to grab some adhesive. This is a 1/8 inch adhesive roll, 1/8 inch adhesive roll, and I'm going to add some adhesive on all 4 sides of my acetate. I also added a little bit of adhesive in the spots between the X's and the O's, and a little bit above my heart because there was some extra space, and I want to make sure that my paper really sticks to that acetate. Now to create the different shaker areas on this card, I'm grabbing some extra thick foam strips, and I'm going to peel off both sides. So I peeled it off my paper here where I have all my foam adhesive, and I also peeled off the release paper side so that way I could easily wrap these pieces of foam around my heart, and then I'm also going to wrap it around my XOXO sentiment to create 2 little individual shaker windows. So once I've wrapped everything around, I'm going to make sure that it's still looking good through the windows to see the XOXO sentiment. But of course, before I secure that down, I need to add my clay confetti. So again, grabbing the XOXO clay confetti. I absolutely love these pretty colors. I'm going to pour some into a tray, and then I will just use my fingers to drop them right onto that background, making sure to keep them inside the window, so where the heart will be and where the XOXO. I also made sure to turn over any of those green hearts that said love, so that way none of them would be backwards. They would all read normal. Before moving on and to finish off this little shaker, I am going to grab my tweezers and some wet glue with a fine tip point to add in the centers of the O's. So I did save those when I was punching out the die cuts from my sentiment, and that way it just creates a little more, I don't know, it adds a little bit more to the XOXO, I guess you could say. So now we're jumping into the product I'm most excited about, which is the new hot foil plates. And I'm going to use the Love Hot Foil plate with some red Glimmer hot foil from Spellbinders. So let me go ahead and grab that roll as well as my little cutting pad. And I'm pretty sure I have an opened roll of red, but that's okay. I'm just going to grab my scissors. There's a little piece of tape holding the roll closed, so I'm just trying to snip that so that way I can cut a piece that will fit my Love foil plate. So just using the foil plate itself on top of my Spellbinders cutting tool, I'm going to grab the foil blade and just trim around the love sentiment using this red foil. I thought the red matched really well with the red on the rest of the card, so my ink blending as well as the red clay confetti. And I'm going to hot foil this to another piece of pink cardstock, the same color that I used for my shaker window background. So here it is. I love the shine. You can see as I tilt it towards the light. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the die that cuts around this sentiment ready and then use my mint tape to keep it in place. I really want to make sure that my die doesn't move when I cut this out because I don't want to mess up my pretty foil sentiment. So once that is done, I'm going to go ahead and die cut that out, and here you could see how fun that looks. I love that Pretty Pink Posh has a die that cuts around the hot foil, as well as a thinner love if hot foil is not your thing. I'm going to quickly off camera stamp and die cut the word sending. This is from the new Potted Roses stamp set. I wanted to create a sending love sentiment, and I loved that the sending was also had its own coordinating die, so that way it would look very matchy-matchy, the sending and the love. So I added some foam adhesive to the parts where I didn't have the pink background of the shaker, some wet glue to the pink cardstock, and I'm gluing that to a slimline card base, which again, when folded, is 8.5 by 3.5. Now it's time to add my sentiments. I'm going to grab some thin 1/8 of an inch foam adhesive. This is from scrapbook.com. And I'm just going to, again, just like I did earlier, peel off both sides of the release paper for this foam adhesive so I can wrap it around the sentiment. It fits perfectly behind this die cut love. So I'm just going to add some foam adhesive as I can, kind of following the curves of this sentiment. I also added some foam adhesive behind the die cut sending sentiment, and now I'm going to use my grid mat to try to help me center this sentiment, sending love as best as I can onto this card. With that, that will kind of finish up the bulk of this adorable Valentine Slimline card, but of course I need to add a little bit more. I was inspired by Craft Roulette to add a hand-drawn border to this card and use it as my submission for last Friday's episode. And then I will also grab some pops of color. This is in Unicorn Tears. I just think that's such a funny name. It's a glitter pops of color where the glitter is this nice kind of pastel pink color that I thought matched really well with spun sugar. So I'm just going to add some around the card. And then I like to tap the inside of my card to help kind of dome out the Hershey Kiss look of the pops of color. And here is a final look at this slimline shaker card that says sending love and lots of XOXOs using new products from Pretty Pink Posh. I hope you're as excited for the new release as I am. Again, I have the bundles linked in my description and you can check out all the new products on my blog. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!